Sit down, right there, don't go nowhere, little baby gon' shake that, little baby gon' shake that, little baby gon' shake that, little baby gon' shake that. Said yeah, I like that, bring that right here. Said sit down, right there, don't go nowhere. Said yeah, I like that, bring that right here. Said sit down, right there, don't go nowhere, little baby gon'.
Welcome back. We back with another reaction video. Today we reacting to Birdman's Evil Hitman, how we caught 40 bodies escape prison and now it's helping the youth. What? At least he changed his life around, I guess. This is a Swamp Stories video. Let's get into it.
You know what, like people always say I'm a product of my environment, right? I like to always say that the environment is a product of me. Because I ain't know nothing about no aspiration, wanting to be no lawyer, no doctor, none of that. All I just wanted to be a little bad, but I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I just thought I was just a little bad. You know, I was a little bad little boy, and I just, you know, wanted to prove a point to people that I'm tough too. Do I have nightmares, or do I have, no, I was young, excited. I guess it was the thrill, the excitement for me. You know, being around big bro, nice car, money, you know, got girls crazy about them. So as a youngster, you look at that, you crave that kind of stuff. You can hide history, but you can't erase it. I'm a part of New Orleans history. I'm so New Orleans. That's a fact.
Welcome back to another episode of Swamp Stories. For this one, we do something that we've never done before. We unveil the entire life story of one of America's most notorious goons. And in this video, you'll get the scoop of his upbringing, his surroundings, and what led something that we've never done before. We unveil the entire life story of one of America's most notorious goons. And in
Fat head at. Oh, wait for him, baby. This nigga got the rainbow hairline.
this video, you'll get the scoop of his upbringing, his surroundings, and what led him to living the wicked life he lived. And most importantly, you'll also tap into his various crimes that have never been told before. This is by far the craziest and most intricate video I've ever done. But wait, before we jump into it, let me clarify a couple things. First of all, you might be wondering, how did I get all of this information? Well, firstly, we actually did an interview, and on top of this, all of the documents are either sealed or they were lost in Hurricane Katrina. I say that to clarify that nothing in this video can be used in court. But more importantly, this man has completely changed his life around, and he does not glorify anything he's ever done. Instead, he rather explains how this can happen and why no one should ever enter a life of crime. All of this occurred over 30 years ago, and it can now be told as the life of Gangsta Williams. So with all that being said, let's dive right into the video. The story begins in late 1970s New Orleans, a very
but there's no statute of limitations on M-word. Whatever, dog.
Transformational time in Louisiana history. Believe it or not, the 1950s, 60s, and early 70s were an amazing time to live in Louisiana. The oil industry was booming with refineries all up and down the Mississippi River and the Gulf Coast. Good paying jobs were easy to find, and companies were getting rich like never before. Well, because of the economic stability, many of the neighborhoods that are extremely violent and poor today were great middle-class communities back in the day. Whether it was North Baton Rouge, Shreveport, or pretty much all of New Orleans, they were all decent places to be. Well, in this video, we start off in New Orleans' 17th Ward, a historically middle-class part of the city. This is where a young man named Terrence Williams was born and raised early in his life.
I was born and raised in Gertown, Pine and Olive. It's the 17th Ward. Not too far from where Lil Wayne always rap about Holly Grove. That's where I come from, Gertown though. It was good. I know back in the day we had chickens in the backyard. I used to be on a Gertown swimming team. Gertown back then, now it changed now, but back then, Gertown was more friendly, more, you know, family, hood, you know, Going to Gertown Park, swimming team, it was cool.
As Terrence describes it, life in the 17th Ward at this time was pretty good. However, his family life was much more complicated. Terrence had 23 siblings growing up, which pretty much made it impossible to have a proper nurturing and supervision as well. To make matters worse, he rarely recalls his father ever being around.
Because I don't remember when I was, from a baby, but I remember my father being around, but not for a long time, so. But for the most part, mom's always been my mother.
And because of this, Terrence spent most of his early years roaming around the neighborhood by himself and sometimes even dabbling in crime.
My mother going to work, she worked at the Sheraton Hotel. So I don't have a father here every day. So
what's up with these niggas in these pictures with these fat ass heads? Stop the edit. Find some other pictures.
Rip and run, do what I want. Man, actually, that's when I first learned how to steal out of A&P store too back then.
A&P had a store back then? Yo, you're retarded. You have to stop.
Well, despite the family situation and maybe being a little devious as a kid, life for Terrence was pretty good in the neighborhood. The neighbors looked out for him and there was really never any concerns of violence. He was just another regular middle-class kid in New Orleans who was living a pretty good childhood. However, from his birth year of 1974 to the early 80s, New Orleans was changing very, very rapidly. By 1980, nearly every oil company in Louisiana had left for Houston, Texas.
Damn.
Anti-business and corrupt politicians led the companies to a state where the environment was much, much better. So with dozens of massive companies leaving, so did thousands and thousands of jobs, all within a few years span. So just like that, New Orleans had lost its biggest industry and 20% of its population. As a result of this, many low to middle class income families could no longer afford their mortgage and were forced to abandon their house. Banks took over foreclosures all over the city, and once self-sufficient families were now reliant on government assistance. Well, Terrence's family was no different, especially with all them dang kids to support. So at just 7 years old, Terrence was moved from the middle class Gertown to the infamous Callio Projects. This was a totally different environment, but at first, Terrence was just fascinated by life in the projects.
I would sit in the window because I was infatuated with the project, how everything was set up, and see the little children.
At first, it just seemed like a fun place to be, but then he was hit with reality.
Callio Project that's when I witnessed selling, murder. So it's like you come from one spot that was cool, laid back, just a regular environment, to now it's like, okay, these little children here are more fast, advanced, like you stepped into a different time zone.
Little Terrence had to adapt quickly to his new neighborhood, and at 8 years old, he witnessed something that no kid should ever see.
We stayed on Thalia, by the red ramp, and when I would come through the cut, it was this little young boy around my age, or around my height. I don't know if he was maybe a year or two older than me, but he would always give me a few dollars when I go into the store. I remember one day, man, the police was out there, and he was stretched out in the courtyard, like he had got killed back in the driveway. So to see stuff like that, you like, man, this stuff real back here, and I was young.
Seeing a friend die in this fashion has a lasting traumatic effect, especially on a child with a developing brain. And without the proper therapy and adult intervention, such trauma lingering on the mind can result in horrible, horrible outcomes. In fact, the biggest commonality amongst adult criminals is unresolved childhood trauma. Psychologists will tell you how vital it is to have professional intervention, which sadly Terrence did not have available. With the lack of resources in the projects and so many siblings in the house, Terrence pretty much had to bottle it up all inside. So because of this moment and overall life in the projects, he was forced to grow up way faster than he should have.
To see stuff like that, you like, man, this stuff real back here, and I was young at that age. So of course I was aware now that even little youngsters could get killed. So that put me on point to, okay, like I said, I wasn't in the streets then, but I was like getting prepared for watching it. And like, you know, as a youngster, you see somebody else doing it, so in your mind, you're like, okay, I want to try that too. Okay, I want to try that too. Okay, I want to try that too.
Like I said, the adverse effects of lingering trauma can lead to dangerous, dangerous thoughts. This is why community resources are so important, especially in impoverished communities. Cause while rich kids go to a therapist after they lose a soccer game, poor kids tend to hold a whole lot of weight on their shoulders. Well, from here, Terrence had no choice but to adapt to living life in the Callio Projects. And during this year, New Orleans saw 233 homicides, making it by far America's murder capital. This is statistically the equivalent of New York City having 4,000 murders a year when they typically average about 350. I can't express how unfathomably bad New Orleans was during this time, and most of it was taking place in these various projects. Well, because of this increasingly bad environment, Terrence's family decided to move once again. At 10 years old, Terrence's family moved from the projects to a house on Phillip Street. Kind of like Gertown, this area was still somewhat middle class and definitely much better than the Callio projects. It was still somewhat dangerous, but it was definitely a much improved place for Terrence to grow up. Regardless though, violence would still make an appearance in his life, but this time in the strangest way possible. So let me explain. The year is 1986 and Terrence is 11 years old. He's flunking out of school, he has no goals or aspirations, and he's becoming known as a class clown in the area.
I got held back in first grade, third grade, and then fifth.
First grade. Nigga. First grade. Well, what are you learning in first grade? Shapes? What the A 5 plus 5 is 10, my guy.
Fifth grade. Because I always was it's like I just always wanted to be the class clown, joke, custom, teach out. So I've always been like that.
On top of this, he has no positive male influence in his life to guide him in the right direction. Instead, he has a mythical creature in his mind, a teenager who everyone looks up to in the area. This would be his older brother, Brian Baby Williams, who he had little to no memories of growing up. Baby was just one of his 23 siblings who bounced around from house to house as a kid, rarely overlapping with Terrence. But despite their lack of relationship, he definitely looked up to his older brother, especially after knowing his reputation. At this time, Baby was only 16, but already a young street millionaire. He had the cars, the jewelry, the women, and much admiration from the whole uptown community. Because of this, little Terrence was eager to meet his older brother and was hoping to impress him as any little kid would. Well, that opportunity would finally come, but not in the way he ever expected. And here's where the story takes a crazy, unexpected turn.
Yes, 1985. My mother's phone
He's
rang.
11.
Phone rang in the kitchen. I answer it. It's Baby on the other end. I'm gonna be around there. Come outside when you hear the horn, alright?
An 11-year-old Terrence is so excited that his older brother is finally coming around. So for over an hour, he sits by the window waiting for his brother to honk the horn. And then he finally sees what he was waiting for. A brand new SUV blasting music rolls up the street. Terrence is geeked, so he instantly hops up and sprints outside to the car. There he sees his brother behind the wheel, no one in the passenger seat, and a whole lot of girls in the back. That's when Big Bro tells him to hop in the car, and this is like a dream come true.
So now you got this nice fancy car with the rag top, nice little rims on it, so you young, you like, wow, this.
So little Terrence hops in the passenger seat, but this is when things take a left turn.
Jump in the car with him. First thing happens is a gun in the back of my head. I'm like, whoa.
What is going on? Terrence is so confused, but that's when he's given an explanation.
He said, never jump in the car if somebody in that back seat. When you jump in the car,
you gotta check the back seat.
You gotta be aware who in that back seat because you might not make it out. That might be your last time in that front seat.
Not long.
This is a strange and puzzling interaction to say the least.
No, it's not. That nigga telling you facts.
I kind of understand the lesson he was teaching, but why would an 11-year-old boy need to learn this? Was he simply preparing him for surviving in the streets of New Orleans, or was he preparing him for an actual life in the streets? Well, here's your answer. The next time his brother would come around, he would ask him to hop in the car once again.
And then this one night, man, I'll never forget that, 11 years old. He showed me this, it was a 22. You ready to use this?
Now with a blick in his hands for the first time, Terrence is ready to do whatever.
You couldn't give him a Taurus? What the fuck? Hey, why did I give him a Deuce?
He has to do.
And by that being, yeah, because I'm happy to be around him. So we go up Phillip, turn left on Magnolia, turn another left on,
So basically,
on
Blind
First,
Baby.
then hit back on
Baby
Robinson
fault.
Street and go past Jackson Avenue. And he pointed this young man
Same thing to Weezy.
and told me to shoot him.
Huh? He gonna survive as a 22.
So I was like, give it a gun, give it out. I jumped out.
These are all jokes. Huh?
Give it a gun, give it out. I jumped out.
Huh?
So I was like,
Told him to
give it a gun, give it out. I jumped out.
He's 11. He's 11. That's crazy, bro. Like, what in the hell? Yeah, bro. Hop out. Pop him. Oh, okay. Pew, pew. It's a 22. That's how it's going off. Pew, pew. I hops out, do my stuff, then hop back in.
And I was supposed to run back to the car, but I ran off back to the house. I went through this little cut through the alley.
He ran back to
Little
the crib.
Terrence had just committed the biggest sin, but there was only one thing on his mind.
I did it, and I hope I made him happy. I'm hoping Big Bro is happy that I pulled off this crime, got away, and most importantly, I didn't run my mouth, and I took the little 22 and put it under the old sofa.
What?
I used to sleep in the living room. My mind was on Big Bro being happy with me, and I know now I'm about to get me some fresh British knives was jumping back then. British knives, felines, them shoes. I'm about to get me something fresh to put on.
Bro, I just took a man's life, bro. I need some Air Force Ones and a whole different fit, gang.
So Terrence patiently waited at the house for Big Bro to come back around. And a few days later, there he would come.
A few days later, he would come around. You all right? Check on right. Big knot of money. You put this, I would hide in my mother's house for him.
After days and weeks go by, Terrence is stuck on a particular mindset.
I thought I was tough. I thought I was bad. I just thought I was just a little bad. I was a little bad little boy, and I just, wanted to prove a point to people that I'm tough too. I'm tough too.
Well, not only was he feeling tough, but he was also feeling respected by his family. But was that really the case? You'll see. A few weeks after this tragic incident, another older brother of Terrence would swing by the house. This would be Ronald Slim Williams, the eldest brother and the richest as well. Although Slim wasn't the best looking guy, he was the street and financial mastermind of the entire family. According to Terrence, Slim was not a bad guy at all, but he was definitely all about the Benjamins. Well, here's what he came to do.
Big Bro, come around with a white guy in a car.
Okay.
I signed some papers. I would later in years find out that was an insurance man. So it's like if we messed up, or if I fronted somebody dope, if they fronted somebody dope and they didn't pay the dope back, or didn't pay, okay, when I get killed, they go get insurance money.
At the time,
Boy, you made your little brother sign a life insurance policy at 11? I'm not even tripping over the fact that, like, nigga, I think everybody should have a life insurance policy. But it's more so the fact that you explained it like, yeah, if I lose my life dealing in these streets, they're gonna get paid. And you then factor in the math that there was 23 siblings. So therefore, if he would have said, yeah, I'm getting all of my siblings to sign this, and then they just so happen to fall into the drug life that baby is eliciting them into, I still get money on. Nani? What are we doing?
Terrence had no perspective on what was really going on. All he thought was that his brothers were showing him love. He was pretty much doing anything they asked, just in the idea that he was making them happy. Well, sadly, it wouldn't be till much later in life when he realized that the family situation was not one of love.
That's why he snitched.
Later on down the line, when I got to prison, started reflecting back on them, like, man, what? Oh yeah, they played me like that.
They played you.
You know, as a youngster, you just happy you got big brothers that's talking the right talk. You know, they there for you, buy you a nice pair of tennis shoes, a nice little polo shirt for school, and you happy.
Damn. He was the first
This
Weezy.
is a lot to take in, so let's
If he
take a
could rap,
moment
if he
to
could rap,
pause
he
and
wouldn't have to
really
do half
think
of that.
about everything. Here you have a middle school aged boy who has unresolved trauma and the lack of a father figure in his life. All he's ever known is his immediate surroundings, so he really has no perspective that anything he's doing is wrong. In his own mind, he rationalizes it as, I just want it to be bad, but we really know that it's much deeper than that. In fact, psychologists will tell you that no child is ever born bad and that most people are simply just products of their environment. Well, if we're being honest, Terrence was headed down a terrible path, and the only thing that could potentially save him would be to have a better environment. So, what happens from here? Well, sadly, at the age of 12, his home environment would somehow get much worse. This is when Terrence's mother would engage in a relationship with a new boyfriend who had the potential to step up for little T as a father.
Bro.
However, this man was hardly a role model. Well, at least not a
Oh,
good
it's
one.
20 kids
in
in the
fact, he
house.
was possibly the worst influence that Terrence could ever have. So let me explain. His stepfather was not a gangster by
Okay.
any means. In fact, he was a well-respected musician.
No, he was cool. He played the saxophone in the little jazz band.
That's hard.
Not only was he not a gangster, but he also really wasn't even a bad guy.
But he was never one of those disrespectful, grouchy, angry stepfathers. He was one of them smooth, laid back, player type. He was one of the ones, like, he never put his hand on my mother. He, you know, tall, masculine, nice, and he played that saxophone.
How the environment get worse?
He had a perm.
So you might be thinking, why would this guy be a bad influence?
He's a dope fiend. It's the 80s. 86% chance, bro.
He sounds like a pretty solid dude. Well, that's only because you don't know the darker side. The man had his own struggles and addictions, and he used his now stepson to be a vessel to get him his fix.
Yeah. He would give me money to go around Second and Diner, this hood I started hanging around anyway, to go buy for him. And once again, I'm like, okay,
I be cooking.
this is something cool, you know, I'm gonna handle this for him. You know, I'm young, because in my mind, I'm thinking he's scared to go.
play music,
somebody
bro.
might rob or
Plus, you
jack
know-
him, so I got this. Give it here, and I would go get the. People would sit back and they'll watch certain children. They'd be like, okay, that one I could use. That one is scary. That one, no, you can't do that one. That might run his mouth. So, you know, older people, they sit back and watch children who they feel that they can use, you know, as their little foot soldiers or whatever.
So just like with his older brothers, Terrence was being used by his authority once again. The people who were supposed to look out for him and have his best interests were failing him all the time. However, he wasn't able to see it this way, and this is how he entered his next chapter in the streets.
Like, he legit. What are you supposed to do?
After doing these daily runs for his stepfather, he naturally started making relationships with the hustlers in the neighborhood. So he started hanging with a man named Ernest who would post up on 2nd and Daniil, a major money block in Uptown. But initially, Terrence had no intentions of hustling because for whatever reason it scared him more than anything else. Regardless though, he was still all in on the street
That was his morals talking? You stupid.
life, and all he wanted to do was be bad. To this point in his street life, Terrence had only hung around and done things for older people, never anyone his age. But at the age of 13, this would finally change, so let me explain. While at school, Terrence met a girl named Chantel who he ended up forming a close friendship with, if that's what you want to call it. And Chantel so happened to live in the infamous Magnolia Projects.
Chantel Red, I think I want to say Chantel had the little Jerry curl back then, look, hairstyle. Mother beautiful, mother real cool. They lived in the Magnolia Project on Ferret Street, but her and I never messed around, if that what you asking.
Yeah, okay, buddy. Well, as their friendship grew, Terrence started going over to her neighborhood after school.
Sometime when we get out of school, I would go to the Magnolia Project. I would hang over there with her and Diva sometime. We just hang out.
This is how Terrence started meeting people in Magnolia, and it pretty much became his second home. They accepted him and it felt like a real community, so he pretty much hung out there every single day. This doesn't matter quite yet, but it definitely will in the future.
So don't they got beef or had beef? The projects.
Well, in the meantime, Chantel would get a new boyfriend who she would also bring over to the Magnolia Projects. Although her and Terrence were just friends, Terrence was definitely not a fan of her new boyfriend.
And that's when Chantel got the boyfriend, Mosquito. So,
yo, this is the most appropriate hood nickname I've ever seen. Big ass eyes, skinny ass body. Mosquito. It just goes.
He started coming back there. I didn't like him at first because he was kind of arrogant. He would get on that bike. He had a bicycle, black handlebars, straight across handlebars. If you had that kind of bike back then, you know, you was somebody in the neighborhood. But he would get on one wheel and just ride for blocks. And one day his mother bought him a gold tee, one solid gold tee on the side. And I was cutting class. And I seen him and I was like, I said, "Man, let me see." He's like, "Nah, stop jocking." And kept walking. I'm like, what do you think he is? You know, I just didn't like him, man. Then him and Chantel started going together.
Mosquito was cool, arrogant, and had a lot of money, and clearly Terrence was not a fan. But being that they were now hanging out in the same circles in the Magnolia Projects, they were bound to have to speak.
Like I said, I would always go in the project by her house, and he started coming over there. So, you know, we would talk because I was already familiar with him through my best friend Rodney Atkins.
After days of talking, Terrence and Mosquito actually figured out that they were pretty much neighbors.
That's how we had met, because like at nighttime, when it was time to go home, we would walk the same way. Because like I say, we walk. I lived on Phillip between Robinson and Magnolia. He lived on Willow Street between Jackson and Josephine. So, you know, we had to go the same way home. You know, that's how him and I had got cool. We started hanging out together.
So through the strangest circumstances, Mosquito and Terrence became really close friends. They quickly found out that they were extremely similar. Like, together, they were pretty much down to do anything bad. They were both running wild and way over violent for their age.
Always want to do something.
Oh, we the
like,
same nigga.
Always quick.
Oh, you live over here?
Want to rob something, want to jack, kill. He was one of the ones that was, he could be chilling. I'd be like, "Mosquito, let's go." Like, it was never one of those. He was never one of the ones that'd be like, "No, hold up, no, I don't think." It was always on go, let's do it. Oh, you got it, let's go. You know, he was.
And that's why you need a counterpart that actually counteracts the dumb You should have a nigga that's like, "Nah, bro, let's think about this first, so we can optimize the stupid shit." Or at least not do it, or cut out the most stupid shit. Like, bro, what?
Never chill, but people liked him too, you know. But when it was turn up, that was Mosquito. When it was turn up, that was Mosquito.
This was bad news, as the duo was now trying to prove who could be the worst. It's like when the teacher would accidentally put the two class clowns together and all hell would break loose. Well, although they were only 13, they were both already financially independent. On one hand, Terrence was scraping by doing whatever little petty crimes, and Mosquito was posted up moving weight on 2nd and Deniel. Because of this, Mosquito started having a bunch of cash and gold grills in his mouth. At this time in New Orleans, having gold grills was so important, like it was your ticket to getting all of the girls. So naturally, Terrence wanted this as well, except he was not down to sell you-know-what. For whatever reason, it was just something that he never wanted to do, no matter how easy the money could be. But he still really wanted gold grills, so here's what he would do.
Just got him from
Pecan
Birdman.
pie that
You already
comes
killed somebody for him?
ashtrays in the pack. Well, Popeye had the gold ashtrays back then, so we would go there, steal the ashtrays from Popeyes, get the scissors, cut the little circle bottom part out, so now you got a round little circle. So from there, you could design your gold teeth. Like, you could put a diamond in there, heart shape, and initials. You could do a little something with it, right? So I had 4 golds in my mouth.
Boom, problem solved. All he had to do was wear fake gold. But then his genius solution would be exposed.
I mean, it's a lunchtime. I have 3 girls in front of me. Back then, if you had gold teeth in your mouth, a teenager, you were the stuff, you know, you got the attention. Stand up talking to these girls. I don't know what got this girl. First of all, I still can't figure how I let her pull that off that fast, but this girl took her hand.
Took it out of your mouth?
And she was so infatuated because she the only one just mesmerized about my gold teeth looking at my mouth. The other girls was just plain and cool. She touched the gold teeth and fell and hit the ground. I looked. And I just took out running. They laughed at me because they realized that they were fake.
So yeah, even in middle school, there was a lot of pressure to have
Boy, you supposed to play it off. Oh, God.
money in New Orleans, and that's why Mosquito hustled so hard. He would post up on 2nd and Daniil all day to stack his money. Well, for Terrence, even after this embarrassing incident, he still didn't want to move you know what. Sometimes he would hustle here and there, but mostly he was just into being hard. You could almost say that while Mosquito was out and about hustling...
Wait. That don't make no sense. Well, I kind of get it, because, again, he was trying to prove a point, right? It's like a manhood type thing. But, like, you ain't want to get no money for it? You could have been thugging on somebody a dime or something. Gotta get some bread, chin. What are we doing?
Terrence was somewhere lurking around for his protection. Well, quickly, Mosquito started making a lot of money, and this made him a major target.
Of course. Now, Mosquito paid me to protect you.
Playing an adult's game would come with adult consequences. It's a regular hot summer night in 1988, and Mosquito was outside waiting for customers.
This 2nd Street run like this way. Daniil run this way. So there's a building that we used to hang. There's a store on the corner. And there was an abandoned house where we would hang at. As I'm coming up the sidewalk, I hear some noise. It's nighttime. So when I come around, the guy is choking Mosquito.
So that's when Terrence whips out and targets the robber.
Get him up off him.
That's self-defense.
So, but I hit him and he let him go, and that was the whole purpose. So, man, Mosquito ran off.
Thankfully, the guy was okay, but Terrence was feeling like the man for defending his friend.
I was 13 years old. Mosquito Man was at 14.
Well, this is when Terrence and Mosquito realized that their lifestyle was dangerous and they needed to have each other's backs. It's just me and you, Terrence and Mosquito versus everyone.
But we was already tight already because we felt like us coming from this neighborhood and hanging over here with these young boys that we still had to stick together. And even though these young boys was over here in the neighborhood, they just hang out there. Me and Mosquito was the one selling the in this neighborhood. But definitely me and him like start hanging together every day.
Well, even though Terrence simply acted in defense of his friend, his actions would still piss some people off. In particular, it pissed off a guy named Sterling from the Magnolia Projects. All he knew was that little Terrence had shot his friend, and because of that, Sterling was looking for him.
Silver.
Word got to us that Sterling was looking for us.
Ooh, this is serious. Could Terrence be involved in his first beef?
Sterling, what is that?
Well, even after finding out that Sterling was looking for him, little Terrence was not worried about anything. In fact, he and Mosquito would still hang out in the Magnolia Projects, even though it was a potentially risky move. And as you would expect, Sterling would eventually find them.
One night we coming up the project, coming up the street. A guy on a bicycle, young, little teenager, a little older than us, riding on a bicycle. We looking at one another. He don't say nothing, we don't say nothing, but it's not till we like pass one another up and we like the distance, maybe like from how this wall is, the room. He was like, who that is? Like, oh, who that is? Oh, this Sterling. So we like, oh, that's the one who want us.
It's a standoff in the Magnolia Projects, Sterling and his boys, and Mosquito and Terrence. Terrence is ready with his hand on his pistol as he waits to see what Sterling's gonna do. Thankfully, Sterling doesn't want to get violent. Instead, he just wants to talk. So he approaches Terrence respectfully and all of the tensions ease away. Terrence explains to Sterling that his friend was robbing Mosquito and that's the only reason he did what he did. Even though his best friend was shot, Sterling was completely understanding and they all decided to shake hands. So that was the story of how Terrence and Mosquito initially met Sterling, which will be very important later on. But in the meantime, they go their separate ways and the story continues.
Alright. Yeah, that's a good little stopping point. Okay, so this is part one of Birdman's Evil Hitman, how he called 40 bodies, escape prison, and is now helping the youth. I love the introduction so far. I'm getting a great understanding of how Terrence grew up. How he had I'm talking about, when I say horrible role models, like, bruh, Birdman, what the fuck? One job. You already doing it. You already selling the drugs, brother. Why would you influence your little, like, okay, after you show them, yeah, bro, don't let nobody ever get in the car behind you, basically. Like, always check your surroundings. After you show them that, bro, you did not have to tell that man to go shoot somebody. That's wild. What are we doing? And then Slim, I get it, bro. You business minded, bro. Technically, all of these siblings that of yours are assets. But life insurance, that's all they amount to? How about you go teach them niggas skills? What? What are we doing? You could have had an army of niggas, and not army as in an army of niggas that actually on some malicious, but like as far as a business wise, like you could have actually taught them how to get money. Y'all could have had a family business, multiple family businesses. Y'all got money, so it don't matter. Y'all clearly did something correct, but like, what are we doing? It could have just been better. Y'all could have just had a better environment in general. That's it so far. But make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Share your comments on the video in the comment section below, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Stay safe, y'all.
See these fans turn me into a monster. Hey, I'm in God mode, can't stop. I'm hooked to live to come. All this pain got me feeling the calm. See this game turn me into a monster. I'm in God mode, can't stop, can't stop. Hey, all that pain got me feeling jaded. Many Ucha roll when to make it. Still plugged into the matrix, but lagging out before the update. Drop back in different times, same location.